let's now solve for the missing value in number 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so we have to complete the square. Now the aim of completing the square is to write a quadratic function in the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equals to 0. This is the general form of the equation of a quadratic function. Okay, so we are to find the perfect square. Okay, so that is the aim of completing the square, to be able to write a quadratic function as a perfect square. Okay, so that would yield to a perfect square. So to do that, let's try number 6. X squared minus 2x plus blank. What must be added to x squared minus 2x plus blank so that we will have a perfect square? Okay, so let me first give you an example of perfect square. So let's say you have x squared plus 10x plus 25. So this is a quadratic function which, when you write as factors, you will have x plus 5. When you factor x squared plus 10, x plus 25, you'll get x plus 5 and another x plus 5. Or you can just write it in factored form as x plus 5 squared. Okay, so this is now the perfect square that we are looking for, and this is its quadratic function form. Okay, now our task now is to find this number, the number that must be added to this particular given, so that we would yield to a quadratic function that can be written as perfect squares. Okay, so how do we do that? Take note that if this is 5, the relationship of 5 and 10 is the twice of 5 is 10, okay, or half of 10 is 5. And then take note of 25. 25 is the square of 5. Okay, so with that in mind, maybe if this is 2 and this must be divided by 2, then we'll get a negative 1. And then also, if that is 1, then we have to square it. That would also be 1. Okay. Now, there is actually a formula in getting this. So, just remember, again, just like in our analysis here, that this particular number is actually half of the middle term. So, therefore, b as the middle term, you just have to divide it by 2. And then to finally get the final or the last term, you have to, again, what is the relationship between 5 and 25? 5 is the square of 25. So therefore, you have to square this. Okay, let's see if this works. So what is your b? It's negative 2. Again, don't forget to affix that negative symbol, negative sign, divided by 2 and then square it. So what is negative 2 divided by 2? That is 1 or negative 1, and then square it. So what is the square of negative 1? It's 1. So therefore, this must be added to the equation x squared minus 2x plus 1, so that you get a quadratic function with a perfect square. So how do you write this now? How do you write this in its factored form? So you simply write it as x minus 1 times x minus 1 when you factor it, or x minus 1 squared. Okay, now let's try number 7. Let me erase this. Okay, number 7. So that's x squared plus 4x plus blank. Again, what must we keep in mind? You have to remember that to get this term, you have to divide b by 2 and then square it. So what is your b? It's 4 over 2. Then square of 4 over 2, that's 2. Squared, that's 4. So this must be added to this given. Okay, so you now have a perfect square. Okay, you have completed the square already. Plus 4. Okay, so how do you write this now in its factored form? That is basically x plus 2 and x plus 2, or x plus 2 squared. Okay, if you will notice, 2 here is actually the quotient between b and 2. Okay, this is the 2. Okay, let's try another example before we proceed with number 8. Let's say you have x squared plus 6x plus blank. Okay, try. What must be added to this? Okay, let's try. Again, that's b over 2 and then square it. So what is your b? It's 6 over 2 squared. So what is 6 over 2? That's 3 squared is equal to 9. So therefore, you add 9. How do you write this in factored form? You have x plus 3 squared. Where did you get the 3? It's the quotient of 6 over 2, which is also here. Okay. Now, number 8 is somehow different from the first two examples because as you can see, there is already a number before x squared. Okay, now take note. Here's a note. Okay, here's a note. The quadratic coefficient must be equal to 1. Okay, a must be equal to 1 before you can proceed to use the formula b over 2 squared. Okay, so this one is yan. So how do you remove that a and make it 1? First, you need to divide it by 12. Okay, everything must be divided by 12 so that you can cancel this and it becomes 1. So this is x squared minus 6 over 12x plus blank. Okay, 6 over 12 can still be written in its lowest term. So that could be x squared minus 1 over 2x plus blank. Okay, what is now your b? B now is b, or let's continue solving. B squared, b over 2 squared is written as negative 1/2 over 2 and then square it. Okay, are you familiar with this? Fraction over whole number. Okay, in this case, there is actually a rule on that the whole number is always over 1, and then you multiply the extremes and the means. So that's negative 1 times 1, it's negative 1, and 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, so now you have the numerator and the denominator and then square it. So this is negative 1 squared is positive 1, and 4 squared is 16. So this is the number to be added to complete the square. 1 over 16. So what is this in factored form? It's written as, again, you get it from b over 2. So that's x minus 1 over 4 squared.